Cynthia Nixon, courageous or controversial? There are actors who become famous, and then there are actors who become culturally embedded, faces audiences feel they have grown up alongside. For millions of viewers, Cynthia Nixon is one of those faces. Sharp, thoughtful, unapologetically intelligent. For years, she was known primarily as Miranda Hobbes, the pragmatic, career-driven attorney navigating love, ambition, and friendship in one of television's most influential series, Sex and the City. But unlike many performers who remain safely inside the boundaries of their most famous role, Nixon made a series of choices that reshaped how the public saw her. Not because of scandal in the traditional Hollywood sense, but because she chose visibility. She chose activism. She chose politics. And in doing so, she stepped directly into arenas where admiration and criticism often arrive together. So tonight, we explore a compelling question. Was Cynthia Nixon courageous or controversial? Or perhaps something more complex than either label allows? Long before the cultural phenomenon of Sex and the City, Nixon was already a working actor with serious theatrical credibility. While many television stars are later drawn to the stage, Nixon's relationship with theater was foundational. Broadway was not a side project. It was part of her artistic identity. This matters because stage actors often develop a different relationship with performance, one rooted less in celebrity and more in craft. Those who worked with Nixon frequently described her as disciplined, intellectually engaged, and deeply prepared. Not flashy, not attention-seeking, but formidable. And that reputation quietly followed her into television. When Sex and the City premiered, few could have predicted the magnitude of its impact. The show did more than entertain. It altered conversations around female independence, friendship, sexuality, and professional ambition. Miranda Hobbes stood apart from her friends in notable ways. She was skeptical of romantic fantasy, comfortable with confrontation, driven by logic rather than emotion. In many respects, Miranda reflected a growing demographic of women redefining traditional expectations. Nixon played her without apology, without softening her edges, and audiences responded, because authenticity is magnetic. Over time, Miranda became more than a character. She became a representation of competence, ambition, and self-definition. For many actors, reaching that level of recognition would be the destination. But for Cynthia Nixon, it appeared to be a launching point. Unlike performers who retreat into privacy after achieving fame, Nixon gradually stepped further into public discourse. She spoke openly about education, healthcare, LGBTQ+ rights, economic inequality. These were not carefully neutral topics. They were, and remain, deeply political. And politics changes how audiences interpret a celebrity. Once an actor enters policy conversations, they are no longer viewed solely as an entertainer. They become a participant in societal debate. To supporters, this signals courage. To critics, it can feel like overreach. Either way, neutrality disappears. Then came the moment that surprised even longtime observers. In 2018, Nixon announced she would challenge Andrew Cuomo for governor of New York. Actors occasionally endorse candidates. Some campaign, few run. Running is different. Running invites scrutiny not just of opinions, but of competence, temperament, and experience. Almost overnight, Nixon transitioned from performer to political candidate. Headlines questioned whether celebrity could translate into governance. Supporters praised her willingness to disrupt established power structures. Critics argued that name recognition should not substitute for political experience. But what is undeniable is this: she took a risk, a very public one. Because political campaigns do not end when ballots are counted, they linger in perception. And once audiences see you through a political lens, they rarely return to seeing you only as a character. For an actor, that is a profound career gamble. Hollywood history shows that audiences often prefer their entertainers politically ambiguous, not silent, but undefined. When a celebrity becomes strongly associated with a political ideology, something shifts. Some viewers lean in, others lean away. Studios notice, networks notice, brand partnerships notice. Because entertainment is not only creative, it is commercial. Polarization introduces uncertainty, and uncertainty makes industries cautious. Yet Nixon appeared undeterred. Whether one agreed with her platform or not, her campaign signaled something important. She was willing to leverage her visibility for causes she believed mattered. That willingness is often described as bravery. But bravery and controversy frequently occupy the same space. After the campaign concluded, Nixon returned to acting, but not quite to the same landscape she had left, because the public had changed, and so had she. When the revival series, And Just Like That, premiered, anticipation was enormous. Reboots carry emotional weight. Audiences want familiarity, but also evolution. Miranda Hobbes, however, appeared markedly transformed. Her storyline ventured into new territory. Her personality seemed less rigid, more exploratory. Some viewers embraced the growth. Others felt disoriented. They asked, was this authentic development, or was the character being reshaped beyond recognition? Nixon spoke openly about participating in creative discussions surrounding Miranda's direction. For some fans, that transparency was refreshing. For others, it intensified concern that beloved traits were being rewritten. This is the delicate balance of franchise storytelling. Characters must evolve, but not so abruptly that audiences feel abandoned. And when actors influence that evolution, they often share in the praise and the criticism. Yet perhaps the deeper question is not whether Miranda changed. It is whether audiences were prepared for the change. Because nostalgia is powerful. It freezes characters in time. But actors, like people, continue growing. And sometimes that growth challenges the version of a character fans believed they knew. This tension is not unique to Nixon. It is woven into the DNA of long-running television. But it illustrates a broader truth. Familiarity does not guarantee acceptance, even when change is intentional, even when it reflects cultural shifts. Beyond television, Nixon's activism continued shaping her public identity. She spoke passionately about educational access, economic disparity, social justice. Supporters saw consistency between her advocacy and her values. Critics questioned whether celebrity amplified her voice disproportionately. But perhaps the more interesting observation is this: she never appeared to retreat. In an era when public figures often recalibrate to avoid backlash, Nixon remained articulate and visible. That steadiness suggests conviction. And conviction, by nature, invites reaction. Because strong positions rarely produce universal approval. So where does that leave the question we began with? Courageous or controversial? Maybe the answer depends less on Cynthia Nixon and more on what we expect from public figures. Should actors remain within the boundaries of entertainment? Or should they use their platforms to engage with societal issues? There is no consensus. Some audiences admire restraint, others admire engagement. But history tends to remember those who stepped forward, even when doing so complicated their careers. It is worth noting that Nixon's trajectory differs from many celebrity narratives. There is no implosion here, no sensational downfall, no pattern of destructive behavior. Instead, her story is one of expansion, from performer to advocate, to candidate, to cultural participant. Expansion often feels disruptive, not because it is reckless, but because it resists containment. And Hollywood, for all its creativity, often prefers predictability. Actors who remain easily categorized are simpler to market, simpler to cast, simpler to brand. Nixon chose complexity, and complexity is rarely quiet. Perhaps the most revealing lens through which to view her career is this: she did not abandon acting for politics, nor politics for acting. She allowed both to coexist. That coexistence challenges the traditional separation between art and civic life. It suggests that performers need not exist in an apolitical vacuum. That visibility can carry responsibility, and that influence can extend beyond the screen. Whether one interprets that as admirable or contentious may ultimately reflect personal philosophy more than her actions. As audiences, we often form invisible contracts with the celebrities we follow, entertain us, move us, but do not unsettle us. Yet the performers who endure are often those who disrupt expectations, not recklessly, but deliberately, by refusing to remain static. Cynthia Nixon's career invites us to reconsider what longevity looks like. Not merely sustained fame, but sustained relevance. And relevance often requires risk. So perhaps the real takeaway is not whether she was courageous or controversial. It is that she demonstrated agency. She made choices, public ones, uncomfortable ones, transformative ones. And in doing so, she reminds us that careers, like identities, are rarely linear. They evolve, they surprise, they provoke conversation, which may be the most lasting form of cultural impact any performer can achieve. Because long after storylines fade, what remains is the willingness to step beyond them. If there is a lesson here, it may be this: safety preserves careers, but courage defines them. And sometimes, the line between courage and controversy is simply the place where change begins.